Hello guys, welcome back. Now today, we're going to be talking about Sergei Bobrovsky, Anton Stralman, and a couple of other players that signed with the Florida Panthers. Now the Florida Panthers in free agency have given out big money to players like Sergei Bobrovsky, Connolly, Anton Stralman, and Noel. So how do these players fit for the Florida Panthers, and what are the details on these contracts? Watch till the end to find out. In the first day of free agency, one of the most active teams throughout has been the Florida Panthers. Obviously, they got their guy in Sergei Bobrovsky, but other than that, they've been pretty active, especially when it comes to depth signings. Now you'll notice Florida didn't end up getting Artemi Panarin. He ends up signing with the New York Rangers, a gigantic deal that'll help the Rangers quite a bit. But the Florida Panthers do still get some decent players. Obviously, Sergei Bobrovsky is a pretty decent player at that. Now, Sergei Bobrovsky was looked at as the more main bet to go to Florida. He was always the guy that I think had the bet to go to Florida. He was a lot more likely than I thought Artemi Panarin. But still, in a way, it kind of is a little bit shocking that they didn't end up getting Artemi Panarin. I think it was a little bit close, and Florida was still one of the main teams in the end to get Panarin, but they do end up getting Sergei Bobrovsky at the very least. When it comes to the contract details on Sergei Bobrovsky, Florida ends up signing him for 7 years on the dot at $10 million each year. And when it comes to goaltending contracts, this is a huge deal. The closest one is Carey Price, I think, at $10.5 million, and that's a huge one by itself. You also got some contracts in that area, guys like John Gibson, but Sergei Bobrovsky is kind of in the middle there, getting $10 million. And for the Florida Panthers, it is a very expensive contract. Obviously, they didn't end up getting Artemi Panarin, so they have some more money to spend, but giving a guy like that $10 million, a guy that had a little bit of a shaky year, is definitely a risky bet. A bit you know when it comes to this contract is that for the last 5 years, there is a no-move clause. So when it comes to Florida, if in 7 years Sergei Bobrovsky just decides to poop the bed, they don't really have too many options there. Kind of getting the same kind of category that they get with the Roberto Luongo situation, and Florida, obviously, that is a risky bet. But Florida, when it comes to Sergei Bobrovsky, before this past season, he was probably the best goaltender on this earth when it came to track record and pedigree, and he proved himself that way. Obviously, last season with Columbus wasn't that great, but he made the second round, was a big reason why in the playoffs, and I think he can lead Florida to possibly a playoff spot if the Atlantic Division doesn't get too great. Now, again, there is still a lot of concerns there if he'll actually pan out. But for the Florida Panthers, they went bank in on at least Sergei Bobrovsky, while obviously they would love to have a guy like Artemi Panarin. They got their guy, and that guy is Sergei Bobrovsky. For the Florida Panthers, they've been looking for that long-term goaltender for pretty much their entire franchise's history. Obviously, when they made the playoffs a couple years back, Roberto Luongo was a lot better, and that was a career year for him almost. But that isn't the same, obviously. Roberto Luongo retiring just a few days ago. It was looking like they were finally turning a page in Florida when it came to the goaltending situation. They traded James Reimer to Carolina, got back Scott Darling, they bought him out, but it was pretty much obvious from that point on that Sergei Bobrovsky would be a Florida Panther. Now, the Islanders were a team that was kind of floating around potentially to sign him, but they do ink the deal, and Florida does get their man. Gets their starting goaltender for the next few years. So the Sergei Bobrovsky contract is fine. That's okay. But moving on to the next contract that the Florida Panthers signed, this one is a doozy, not gonna lie. Now, Anton Stralman was the guy that was kind of a wild card in this free agency. A defenseman that could get a wide range of teams interested, and I thought he would be in the range of $5.5 million. But that does not mean that the contract is worth it or that a team should sign it. Now, the Florida Panthers were the team that ultimately bit on Anton Stralman and gave him a 3-year contract, which is rough, not gonna lie. But also gave him a $5.5 million cap hit. And I understand, he was, when it came to defensemen in this free agency, there wasn't a lot to choose from. And he was a guy that had a lot of veteran experience, had a lot of time in Tampa Bay, had a lot of playoff experience, which is so valuable these days. But $5.5 million for a guy who's past his prime, average at best at this point, that's a yikes in my opinion. Now, I like Anton Stralman quite a bit. If you guys don't know, Tampa is my second favorite team, and Anton Stralman, I think, has a lot to offer, but not at the age that he's at, not for 3 more years, and not at $5.5 million. That's just not the case. And again, I like the guy. I like what he brings, but the Florida Panthers are heavily overpaying what he provides. He's a guy that's a top 6 guy at best in the NHL right now. He's an average defenseman, replacement defenseman, and he's getting $5.5 million, which, for Florida, yes, they do need defensemen, but still, I don't get it. And for Florida, yes, they did add cap space, but I'm not sure how much longer that's going to be the case, really. At $5.5 million, that is just such a big chunk of your cap hit gone just like that. For a guy that, yes, will be decent in Florida, but I don't think they need defense that much. I think defense, again, is a problem for them, and I obviously thought that it seems going to overpay for him, especially at 5.5. I think that was the spot that I was kind of predicting to be at. The Florida Panthers weren't really a team that I really thought was going to go after him. I thought they're going to be a little bit smarter than that, but even then, there was going to be one team that bit, and the Florida Panthers are unfortunately the team that did. Now, for the next contract that Florida will likely regret, we have the Brett Connolly signing, and this one, yeah, Anton Stralman is bad, but this one kind of irks me just a little bit more. I don't think it's as bad as the Anton Stralman contract. But for Florida, yes, they did have cap space, but you downgrade from Artemi Panarin down to Brett Connolly, and the contract isn't even good either. The contract details goes as follows. Brett Connolly gets a 4-year contract at $3.5 million per year. And again, Brett Connolly is a decent player, kind of like Anton Stralman, but he's an average player, I would say. He's a third liner on pretty much every NHL team. And Florida already has a stacked top 6. That should be their strength. That should be their thing they're going with. But they get some depth here, sure, but at what cost? It's a very big cost. 4 years for a guy who's in his, I'm pretty sure, early 30s. It's just not a great idea in my opinion. And at $3.5 million, I don't think that's terrible for him. I don't think it's a terrible contract for Connolly. But again, it's more than he's worth. And yes, that does happen in UFAs. It does happen in free agency. I get it. But for the Panthers to sign Brett Connolly, I honestly didn't expect it. And I honestly don't see it working out in the long term. Obviously, Brett Connolly is a former Stanley Cup champion. He has a lot of playoff experience, but the Florida Panthers are banking a lot on playoff experience and decent play. And yes, I know he got a lot of points this season, but when it comes to his progression, when it comes to how he'll do in this 4-year contract, I like Brett Connolly at 3.5 if it's a 1-year deal. But at 4 years, I don't know how much Florida will be regretting it at that point, but it's one that I think they'll regret in no time. Going on to the last player that Florida ended up signing, we have Noel Acciari, and I think this deal is pretty sneaky, and it's one that went under the radar a little bit, but I think it's pretty solid. Now, Noel Acciari ended up signing a 3-year deal at $1.6 million per year, and Noel Acciari, obviously being a part of the Boston Bruins, had a pretty big part on their playoff run, even though he's not the greatest player either way. He was a little bit injured and banged up for that playoff run, but still played relatively well. If he can't be healthy, I think he's a decent signing for the Florida Panthers, and at $1.6 million, it's a one that's a little bit less risky, even though it is 3 years in the contract. So again, that 3rd year, that 2nd year might be rough if he doesn't really translate from the Florida Panthers to the Boston Bruins or vice versa. So I think it'll be decent for them. I think the offense that he'll provide will be worth it. For the Florida Panthers, again, they're obviously bringing out money for those forwards, guys like Brett Connolly. So signing Noel Acciari doesn't really surprise me. I think for the Florida Panthers, so far in free agency, it's been a little bit of a mixed bag. They've had some decent signings, but some rough ones. And I like getting guys like Sergei Bobrovsky, Noel Acciari. And for those contracts, what they provide, I think it's decent for Florida, but overpaying on Stralman by a hefty margin, and the years on that Brett Connolly contract, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with those guys, how it pans out. But for the Florida Panthers, right now, it's looking pretty meh. But of course, with this video, I need to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know what you think about the Florida Panthers signing Sergei Bobrovsky, Brett Connolly, Anton Stralman, and Noel Acciari. Let me know your thoughts on the contracts. Do you think these contracts are good, or do you think these contracts are bad? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video on Joe Bobrovsky and Corey Perry signing with the Dallas Stars. You hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on the Florida Panthers and the signings they made, and I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.